Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
Hey, I'm Sherilyn, your co-host.
Let's cure for C and get underway. COVID-19 continues to rock our home-based business world, and we're all in a mad scramble to try and stay afloat.
A key part of relief is hundreds of billions in emergency funding through the Small Business Administration, such as the Paycheck Protection Program and emergency loans.
Smaller home-based business owners are often being left in the dust as larger small businesses seem to scoop up all the funding.
The good news is that there's still time to obtain COVID-19 SBA funding, and indications are that the government will continue to add more dollars into them.
To help us sort through all the red tape and get us in line with the SBA, we are joined today by Jerry Detweiler, a credit expert and author of Finance Your Own Business, Get on the Financing Fast Track.
So hello, Jerry Detweiler. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for connecting. It's from Sarasota, Florida?
That's right.
All right. Well, this time of year, we usually like dying through the winter up here in the northern Minnesota country, but we're starting to get closer together on weather, so it's that nice time of year for everybody. How's everything in Sarasota?
It's beautiful and sunny. I can't complain. If I have to be quarantined, this is a good spot to do that.
Hey, it's a great place to be quarantined. I heard in Florida they're starting to relax it for the beaches. Oh, okay.
Okay, so Jerry, the Senate recently passed legislation to provide an additional $380 billion in COVID relief loans for small businesses. Can you share with us what this means for small businesses nationwide?
Sure. So there are two programs that have been designed to help small businesses impacted by the coronavirus crisis. The Paycheck Protection Program, which is a new program that was made law by the CARES Act on March 27th. And then the second is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which has been around for years for all kinds of disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes and floods. These programs have been incredibly popular and they ran out of money very quickly. So now Congress is acting to replenish those funds and hopefully get more money into the hands of small businesses who really, really need this relief.
So sometimes I get a little bit confused. Is the PPP part of the EIDL, or are they kind of kept as separate programs you need to apply for?
That's a great question. They're both SBA loan programs, but they're completely separate. So the EIDL is primarily a low-cost loan for working capital. So think about a business that has been impacted by any kind of disaster. They need to pay their bills so they can get up and running again and then hopefully continue to grow their business. This provides that loan to do that. Now, the CARES Act added a twist, though, and that twist is an emergency grant that doesn't have to be repaid of up to $10,000. And the way the SBA is administering it, it's $1,000 per employee. So if you're the only employee in your business, you would be eligible for $1,000 as an advance. 2 employees, $2,000. That money doesn't have to be repaid. The rest that you get approved for is a loan for up to 30 years at 3.75%. Now, PPP is also under the SBA umbrella, but it's a brand new program, and it's really designed to do one primary thing, and that's keep people on payroll. So I know that a lot of small business owners find it confusing because they don't understand why the government is paying them to keep operating, even though they don't have the money to pay payroll. But essentially what the government is saying, hey, we're going to step in, and if you use this money that we lend you short-term for payroll, you can actually have it forgiven, and the government's going to pick up the tab. So in that case, you apply based on your average monthly payroll times 2.5%. In some cases, it's your profit from your business from 2019. Use it for the right purposes for the 8 weeks after you get the loan, and then you can apply and have it wiped out before a payment is even due.
Okay. And so I understand if you get these grants, then that they sometimes will then deduct from the other, like the PPP program, if you were to get in like an additional grant, or maybe I'm getting that mixed up.
You're not getting it mixed up. That was a provision for the first wave of folks who got the grant, and we don't know how that will be treated yet in the second round. But basically what the government is saying is you can't double dip. So you can't get the grant for payroll and then get a forgiven loan for the same payroll, right? But these two programs can be very complementary. So most businesses, in addition to payroll, they have other expenses they need to pay. And so the EIDL can cover those working capital needs. Let's say, for example, you work from home, but you hire independent contractors. In PPP, you can't include payments to the independent contractors that you pay to help your business as part of your PPP calculation. They're supposed to go apply on their own. But instead, what you could do is you could apply for EIDL, and the EIDL funds could be used to pay those independent contractors as well as other expenses that you need to run your business. So these really are complementary programs, and I highly recommend business owners to investigate and apply for both if they think they're eligible.
Well, let's kind of dig into that a little bit more. You know, there are several SBA programs, and the rules seem to be changing all the time. Jerry, which COVID loans do home-based businesses best qualify for?
So home-based businesses can apply for both the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loan. What's confusing to a lot of people, and this is understandable because the SBA took a little while to come out with its guidance, but what can be confusing is how you qualify as someone who's self-employed. For the EIDL application, you're going to be entering information about your revenues from your business for 2019 and the cost of running your business for 2019. You don't actually specify a loan amount. The SBA will figure that out for you. But for the grant, it's going to be based on $1,000 per employee. Now, if you are the only employee in your business, put down one employee because you do want to get that grant if you're eligible. For PPP, it's confusing because the SBA didn't come out with guidance for the self-employed borrower until right before the program ran out of money. So there weren't a lot of self-employed borrowers who were able to apply. But typically that calculation is going to be based on your net profit from your business for 2019. So you take line 31 on your Schedule C, that's the tax form that many sole proprietors use to report their business income to the IRS. You take that net profit, and then it's 2.5 times your monthly net profit. So you take that net profit, divide it by 12, multiply by 2.5. If I didn't lose you there, that's where you get the amount that you're going to use to qualify for PPP.
So if I remember, PPP also, it was that 2.5 times payroll. So it's kind of following the same principle there.
Yeah, and what's interesting with PPP, if you think about it, so it's 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. And then it's going to allow you to spend that money for the 8 weeks or 2 months after you get the loan. So 2.5 and 2 are a little bit different. So that other 0.5% in there could go to payroll, or it could go to other qualified expenses. Those could be rent, mortgage interest, or utilities for your business. So if you normally write these off in your home-based business, they may be eligible for inclusion in the forgiven amount for the purpose of PPP.
So if you do apply for a, I mean, of course, everybody should apply for a PPP because it's basically, if you follow the rules, you're going to get a forgiven loan, a grant. But if, say, you do have a PPP, would you recommend also applying for an EIDL, or are they supposed to be kind of considered you either apply for one or the other? In other words, are you going to decrease your probability of getting an EIDL if you have applied for a PPP?
Yeah, well, first, let me back up to your first assertion that you should apply for PPP. I do want to point out that depending on how well your business did last year, if you had a loss on your Schedule C, you aren't eligible for PPP. And if you didn't make much money as your net income in 2019, you actually may be better off qualifying for the pandemic unemployment assistance. That's going through the states, but that provides unemployment assistance plus an additional $600 a week for a certain period of time. So
Okay.
do a little bit of math to determine whether unemployment assistance or PPP is a better bet for you. But if you decide to apply for PPP, there's no reason you can't apply for EIDL also. And again, you can't double dip, can't use the money for the same purposes, but
Right.
as long as you don't do that, these programs can both be valuable to your business. Just remember, PPP is 100% forgivable if you spend it correctly. EIDL, except for the grant or the advance, is a loan that you'll have to pay back. Now, you can't just get the grant and then if they offer you a loan, say, no, thanks, I don't want the loan, I just want the
Yeah.
grant. That's perfectly fine as well.
So Jerry, many home businesses don't have W-2 employees. Can you discuss further how you can apply for a PPP if you are self-employed?
So if you're self-employed, you're going to be looking at your income from your business, unless you pay yourself wages. I was a home-based business owner for more than a decade. I had an S corporation, and so I paid myself an actual payroll salary, and then I took distributions on top of that on months when my business did well. Now, the SBA has said for those folks who have a corporation and they pay themselves a salary, distributions or owner's draw don't count toward PPP. So if you haven't been paying yourself a salary, just taking money out of your S Corp, you may have trouble qualifying for PPP. But if you're like many home-based businesses, you probably file a Schedule C. That's part of your Form 1040 that you use for your personal taxes. And on Schedule C, you're looking at line 31, your net profit. So as long as you made a net profit in 2019, then you're fine. Now, I know a lot of people have not filed their taxes because we got an extension to do that. The SBA says you don't have to have filed your 2019 taxes, but you should complete them so that you have the accurate information you need to fill out the application and get the correct amount of money for your business.
Oh, good points. Well, the stories from home business owners trying to obtain SBA funding are truly terrifying. I've been talking to several this week, and they've just put their application in, and it got lost in the file, particularly with the larger banks. Jerry, what obstacles are small business owners encountering when it comes to getting approved for these loans?
There are a couple of obstacles that I've seen really trip up small business owners. One is the fact that although the application for self-employed came out on April 10th, the guidance from the SBA didn't come out until almost 4 days later. So they really didn't know how to complete the application. So that was confusing. The other issue that we've seen is that many banks have prioritized their existing customers and larger loans. And there's a variety of reasons for this, but some borrowers just found they got into a line and they have no idea where they are in the queue. They don't know if there's 500 people in front of them or 5,000 people in front of them. So I'm really hopefully optimistic that in round 2, it's going to be a better experience. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One is Congress has allocated specifically money to smaller financial institutions who are designed to serve these borrowers. And then also we have a number of online lenders who got approved to offer these SBA loans after round 1 was finishing up. And they're very used to dealing with home-based business owners and the self-employed and those who don't have all the documentation that a bank normally wants. So hopefully those online lenders and the smaller financial institutions are going to be able to serve those borrowers who aren't looking for millions of dollars, but need a few $1,000s to keep their doors open.
Yeah, I sure hope it gets fair. Boy, the stories, and it seemed like some of the larger small businesses that had those relationships already established, those loans just went in like a machine. And I think just even whether you're W-2 employees or applying as self-employed, it just seemed like there was a lot of confusion. And I was surprised at the demand. How quickly the funds disappeared. And what I'm hearing now on the funds that are in debate now, that might only last a week. And so the message is you've got to be ready to push that application as soon as additional funding becomes available.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And in fact, I'm recommending borrowers fill out applications to multiple lenders. And whoever gets to you first, that's the lender you end up taking the loan from. You can only get one PPP loan. Now, I do want to be clear that for EIDL, the only place you get that loan is directly from the SBA, sba.gov. You don't go to a lender for EIDL, the disaster loan. You go to lenders for PPP loans. So there is a separate application process for each of these.
I think another point I heard is that if you've applied for a PPP and you didn't get your funding, it's important to note, I understand you have to reapply, that the SBA didn't keep old applications in the queue.
You may or may not have to reapply. Your lender may have your application ready to go because the lender processes the application, but then the lender has to submit it through the SBA's system. Because somehow, somewhere, right, the SBA has to keep track of how much of this money is gone. So every loan has to go through that system. So there are lenders right now who are getting everything lined up. So the minute they can press go, they're going to start getting those loans approved through the SBA.
So Jerry, what if you are able to climb the mountain and get SBA funding? Are there things to watch out for after you get your loan?
Yeah, this is the next minefield, unfortunately. Generally, the idea is the minute that money hits your account, for the next 8 weeks, you spend your funds primarily on payroll. And keep in mind, if you pay yourself through your business, you're part of payroll, so you count as well. So you need to spend that money correctly. Up to 25% of it can go toward rent, business rent, business mortgage interest, and business utilities, things like internet and other related expenses. However, it can get tricky. If you have employees and you've let them go, maybe they've gone on unemployment, or you had a lot of extra spending on overtime right before the crisis, and then that ground to a halt, it gets a little bit confusing. So I would encourage you to understand the rules around forgiveness and keep careful track of how you spend that money. You're going to need to document it. I've even heard recommendations that you open a second bank account and put the money in that account and only spend it on payroll, and then up to 25% for these other expenses. It's not a bad idea, but whichever way you go, good bookkeeping is really, really essential here.
Yeah, I think the big thing is you're so relieved and happy you've got the funding, but then you got to remember you're holding some dynamite there if you don't manage it properly and document and be ready to provide what's needed for the loan. It's going to turn into a loan, and
that's
so pay attention
right.
to that now.
That's right. Yeah, and it's not a bad loan. It's 1% interest rate for 2 years, but most business owners I talk to are trying to avoid that, especially right now with so much uncertainty. So if you can get this 100% forgiven, that's the best case scenario by far.
Well, this is all kind of leading up to where we're at economically. We are in the toughest of times, and some are predicting we may even be in a depression short term. Jerry, what should business owners do right now to start weathering this financial crisis?
One thing I've seen just talking to so many business owners across the country is that this is really the time to understand your financial situation. And if it's not been something, if you've been someone who just handed over a shoebox to your accountant before, this is a time where you need to delve in and really understand your numbers.
You just described me.
I know. I was always on extension for my business as well, so I feel the pain. But you want to try to minimize expenses, and that goes for you personally as well. So, for example, many mortgage lenders, home mortgage lenders, are allowing borrowers to go into forbearance and not make a payment for 3 or 6 months. And that may be a way to preserve cash flow, especially valuable for a home-based business who may have a mortgage on the home that they live and work out of. So look for every opportunity you can, because we just don't know how long this is going to take to recover. So preserve cash if you can. Apply for relief programs. You may also have some at your state or local level that may be helpful, and there are a number of companies offering a variety of grants as well. And then figure out, how long you can last on what you have and what you need to do to pivot to start bringing in some more money.
Those are some great points. I really want to highlight that second one about checking with your states, because there's huge focus on federal, but I think most every state has also found some funds to distribute to small businesses, and might take a little extra work, but there's some opportunity there.
Yes, and those may become even more available as time goes on. I see new ones popping up all the time. So just really stay in touch with what's going on at your state and local level. And one good way to do that is through your local SCORE office or your Small Business Development Center. Those are free resources. Get on their mailing list, and they will let you know when new programs pop up to help businesses in your area.
Jerry Detweiler, this has been a wonderful discussion on navigating the minefield for SBA emergency funding. Do you have any final points you'd like to share?
Yeah, at NAV, we're continuing to educate small business owners about this issue. We have a COVID Resources Center, and we also are matching borrowers to lenders. So if you're looking for a PPP loan and you're looking for something outside your bank, you can come to nav.com, and we'll be happy to try to help you find a lender who can hopefully get you those funds that you need.
Get yourself educated on the process. Well, Jerry Detweiler, thank you for being such a great guest on the Home Business Podcast.
Thank you.
To learn more about Jerry Detweiler and her books, visit nav.com or our podcast website for more information on guests.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising. Subscribe to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the Home Business Expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying anchors away.
We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
Make it a great home-based biz day.